Town Council meeting. Before we start, we're going to have, I'm going to read my mayor's statement. We're going to come up on the moment of silence, and I want everyone to pay particular attention and keep in their hearts and their mind Harry Coons, who passed away last week. Harry was a long-time resident, but above that, Harry really defined community spirit. You know, at any event, you always saw Harry there, you know, with a smile and always had a joke. And it's with heavy hearts that we have to say goodbye to Harry. But please keep him in mind during the moment of silence. So with that, I'll start off by reading my mayor's statement. Notice this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the agenda on the bulletin board at the municipal complex, filing a copy of the agenda in the office of the township clerk at the municipal complex, forwarding a copy of the agenda to the Barnton County Times and Carrier Post, forwarding written notice to each person who has requested copies of the regular meeting. All the above posting, filings, and mailings have taken place on the 25th day of April 2014. I now ask you to rise for a moment of silence, followed by the flag salute. Before we get started with our meeting, we're going to change up the order of the meeting. We have a number of high school students here today, as you can tell. It's not 6th period sociology, but it is our council meeting. We're going to be honoring these kids for stepping up and being leaders in their own right, and the future leaders of our country. You know, here now. But it's a great and extraordinary thing for them to want to step up and lead their classes, their respective classes. We have the officers from the Morristown High School, the senior class, the junior class, and the sophomore and freshman classes. They're kind enough to be here today, and so that they can get home and get their homework done and get back to the iPads and everything else. We're going to take them first. So I'm going to start with the. And if I can get help from somebody to pass out, I guess I can pass out the proclamations. But we're going to start with the seniors. If the seniors would come down. Yeah. As I said, these kids were had the courage enough to step up and lead their senior class. We have here Cameron Pendino, Nicole Wilson, Bhavika Jamadi, Jim Burns, Jimmy's not here, Patrick Wade, Kelly Hopkins, and Max Solomon, who I know would rather be 1,000 different places than be at a council meeting right now. But folks, we really want to thank you, and Deputy Mayor Jordan will hand you your proclamations. I won't read each proclamation, but basically we're just thanking you for your service and acknowledging that you have stepped up and decided to lead your class, and we sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you one. Thank you. Great job. Your classes.
Thanks, folks. We'll now take the.
You want to do a picture?
Hey, did you guys want to do a picture? Sure. Anybody?
Where's our camera?
Oh. Okay. She's got it. There. This is the junior class, and I have this proclamation. Let me read just for the record. And this says, whereas throughout the Morristown Township School District, students have participated in government elections for class president and senior class officers. And whereas the students have learned the steps of the electoral process by selecting candidates, running campaigns, and holding elections, these experiences have not only educated them in the political process, but also in the responsibility of all citizens to participate and be active in our selection of our government representatives. And whereas the student government offers an opportunity for participants to strengthen leadership skills while exploring the power and effectiveness of democracy within their own schools. And whereas as a result of their hard work and dedication, successful candidates have earned the right to represent their fellow students. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Morristown Township Council of the Township of Morristown urges all citizens of the Township of Morristown to recognize the achievements of the following elected class officers and wish them continued success during their terms of office in becoming tomorrow's leaders within our community and future government. And here we have Brian Trainer. Brian, anyone better at this? Congratulations.
Not yet, we're getting it.
We're getting
By the
there.
time the freshman class will be perfect.
Julian Maliha. Caroline Richardson. Not here. Stephen Nye. And Eleanor Moreno. That's you.
I should say something nice about Julie. Julie is the coxswain on my Twitter account, and I kicked butt on the races on Saturday at the state champ. So they got third place in the state. Put a little plug in there.
We have Nicole Surujas. And the Molinos, their second one, Madeline Moreno. Thank you. Yeah, we're getting there.
All right, we have.
And these are the freshmen. We have Nicole Latino. Thank you. Thomas Bolton. Catherine Jin. Skylar Fox. And Lavish Jumadi. Thank you. We're going to give a second proclamation recognizing Autism Awareness Month, and since Councilwoman Napolitano has been a staunch advocate of that, we decided to give her the honor of presenting the proclamation for Autism Awareness Month.
Thank you very much for, there we go. Mr. Mayor, thank you for giving me the opportunity to give this proclamation. This is my second year as an Autism Awareness Ambassador with Autism New Jersey, and something that's kind of important to me. And, you know, autism is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's something that doesn't just affect individuals, it affects their families, and as a result, it affects our community. And as we wait for a cure or even an explanation, the best thing that we can do as a community is educate ourselves about autism and what that means so that we can be a more inclusive and welcoming community. So I've invited two people today to come up to accept this proclamation for Autism Awareness Month. We have Diane Doherty and Evan Heitzman here today. Diane is an active member of SPEAK, and Evan has actually started a summer camp for special needs kids that happens every summer at the YMCA. That's for any special needs individual who can't go to a regular camp, but so that they can have that opportunity. So, Diane, if you could please come up to the mic.
I need a motion to autism awareness.
Whereas autism spectrum disorder represents a range of conditions characterized by social deficits, communication difficulties, repetitive behaviors, and cognitive delays ranging from mild to severe, and whereas recent studies have indicated that autism spectrum disorders are diagnosed in 1 in 68 children nationally and 1 in 45 in New Jersey, and whereas the Center for Disease Control and Prevention have called autism a national public health crisis whose cause and cure remain unknown, and whereas the lifelong nature of autism spectrum disorders requires our society to be ever vigilant in developing a variety of types of assistance at different points in an individual's life and in the lives of their families. And whereas statewide groups such as Autism New Jersey and Autism Speaks, along with local groups such as the Morristown Special Education Advisory Council, SPEAK, bring awareness to autism within our local community. And whereas the Township of Morristown offers a variety of programs and services for individuals with autism and their families, and whereas the Township of Morristown seeks to continue to foster an accepting and supportive community for individuals with autism and their families, now therefore, the Council of the Township of Morristown in the County of Burlington, State of New Jersey, do proclaim April 2014 as Autism Awareness Month in Morristown, and urge our citizens to become educated and informed about services, programs, and opportunities to support individuals with autism and their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria, great job. I guess that brings us, Scott, we're going to have the workshop.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things on our workshop agenda for this evening. The first is actually a request from Councilman Garwood, but I think there's other council members that have expressed interest in this. Discuss the application, putting in an application for the New Jersey Department of Transportation Safe Routes Grant for a bike path on New Albany Road. So, Mr. Garwood, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. As you know, we've been working with the Bicycle Task Force. They recently met with the Sustainability Green Team. They've had a great relationship starting to blossom. So we also happen to have the planning board accepted the Bicycle Safety and Circulation Plan as part of the master plan. So that enables us to now move forward with a lot of these grant processes. And during the discussion of that, Tom Ford had sparked a little interest and made some comments about the bicycle path on the north side of New Albany Road. That would connect the two major bike paths from Riverton Road and Church Road. There's already a bike path on most of that, but it stops roughly Iron Post Road. So we thought that may be a good avenue to pursue. The deadline for this grant application has been extended through June 30th, so we now have some time to, get our ducks in order and make out a good grant application. The money is there from the state. I think there's some left over from last year, so I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor to pursue, and even maybe expand to some other projects that can get identified through the task force. So.
Yeah, I mean, the key with all grant applications is to find something that's going to have a good shot at getting an award. And in talking to Tom Ford and Jim Runnerman, they both thought that this was a very good idea for this specific grant. Okay. So if council's okay, then I'll get community development to begin working on this.
I think it's a great idea.
Greg?
Good?
No, good.
You good, Greg?
All right, also, Mr. Mayor, we do have town hall update on for later on in the agenda, but since Mr. Notley and Mr. Reagan are here, I wanted to not only allow for an update on where we are, and we can see the finish line not too far ahead of us, but I also wanted to take this time to ask council how they would feel about canceling the May 12th council meeting. We are scheduled to have our meetings in May 1 week apart, the 12th and the 19th. The 19th is 3 weeks from today, and the 19th is also the the day we anticipating beginning working out of the new town hall, and also having a meeting that evening in the new building. And while we're not looking to avoid having any more meetings in this specific room, the fact of the matter is the staff is going to be inundated with getting everything put together and ready for this move. So rather than also having to at the same time do everything that we normally do, plus get an agenda ready for May 12th, which is, like I said, there's only a week in between. Reached out to the directors today. Nobody has anything that can't wait to the 19th. So if council's okay with it, we would just only have one meeting in May. It would be in the 19th, and it would be at the new building.
I mean, nothing time sensitive,
No.
deadlines, contracts, anything I have to keep with
Everything could wait that one extra week.
Would we have to make this meeting up at some point, or can we just go ahead and cancel out?
Nope. We just cancel the meeting?
All right.
Will we have a grand opening at the,
Well, we can talk about that with Rob and Rick in a little bit. We've discussed the timeline before. The town hall is going to be operational several weeks before the library. The move itself for the town hall portion is going to happen, knock on wood, rather seamlessly. Where we're going to be working in 2 Executive Drive until May 16th, which is a Friday, and open the doors Monday morning, May 19th in the new building. We're going to be able to do that because the furniture is being delivered starting next Monday. The computers and the phones are being set up now through John Popowitz. So everything's going to be ready. There's going to be some moving that weekend. A lot of files at our 2 Executive, existing furniture that we're going to repurpose. But all of that's going to be done over that weekend. On the other hand, the library move is substantially more intense, and you've got to move all the books over, not just move the books over, but then put them on the shelves in the right order. So that does take some time, and we're looking at the library opening, I guess, early, mid-June. So the thought process with the team was that any ceremony we have as a grand opening would occur once the library was also complete. So once we have that ceremony, the doors are fully open to the entire building, and the public can enjoy the entire building. So
that means that this would be the last meeting in the IT room?
yes, unless council gets teary-eyed and nostalgic down the road and also wants to come back.
That's what it is.
This is one place we won't travel back to.
Yes, instead of everyone looking down at us, they'll be looking up at us every day.
We'll still be looking down at us. I'm fine with canceling the meeting. If the resident has to get in touch with us, they can always email or call like they usually do. So I don't feel that anybody's being shut out, so I'm fine with canceling.
And Rob, Rick, if one or both of you would like to get up and just fill council and public in all the wonderful things that have been happening, it's a lot. It's every day something else gets finished. So the second floor of town hall is pretty much done.
I like the analogy that you used earlier about getting close to the finish line. Don't picture this as a sprint. This is really, I think the steeplechase in the Olympics is 3,000 meters. So that's about 7 times around the track. So we're on that last lap, and we do still have a few hurdles and those water hazards to clear, but we are very close. We're soaking wet, but we're very close to getting across the line. At this point, the contractors billed about 93% of the value of the contract. If you drove by the site today, you see that the paving is almost complete. I'd say we're about 95% on paving. Landscaping is in progress. They still have some issues with getting the bottom of the basin, it's between the rec building and the town hall building. I'm sorry, the library side of the building. On the 3rd Street side of the site, there's still some great issues that need to be resolved there. We're finishing up the interior work. Carpets are, as Scott said, carpets are installed on the 2nd floor. Carpet was being installed today in the library. Main technical issue we have right now is resolving some of the air volumes throughout the building. We had a meeting with the engineer and the contractor and the balancing subcontractor on Friday. We're hopeful that we get through all of that this week. Fire alarm testing is scheduled to begin on Thursday, I think, right?
Yeah.
Which is a major milestone because the key to getting a temporary certificate of occupancy for the building, or one of the keys, is life safety. And testing out the fire alarm system is the most important aspect of that. So that's taking place on Thursday. The contractor has already thoroughly tested the system. This is basically a demonstration to the building subcode official and the fire subcode official. As Scott said, town hall furniture delivery is scheduled for next week, beginning on the 5th. That's a one-week process. Library furniture is scheduled to start arriving the following Monday, the 12th. Once that furniture is in place, that's about another one-week furniture move. Then we've got about a 2-week move of the actual contents of the library over to the new library building. I'm glad you mentioned that we have to put the books in order. I'll make sure I mention that to the move. And the plan is to have town hall open for business May the 19th. The library, we are optimistically aiming for June 2nd as a soft open date, with hopefully a grand opening date the following week, which would be June the 9th. With that, if you've got any questions.
The other important thing to test is the sound system. That testing is happening on Friday, and John was working at the building again today. And the hardscape pavement is in the front door as well as across the driveway, so that when that paving is done, we'll have that worked out. And the site lights are finally on the job. There's subject to rain, it could be installed as early as tomorrow. And we're looking forward to the landscaping getting completed, but again, we're going to have a lot of rain to deal with potentially this week that concerns us. So,
What's going on with the green roof? How are we doing with the green roof?
the green roof is one of the items that will be done after Sanby gets their certificate of completion, because we didn't want to pay their prices. So we have contacted 2 or 3 contractors and are getting prices from them, and they'll be ready to install during that period between May 19th and June 12th.
Great.
When will the council chamber be ready for to record the meetings, so we can post the?
May 19th.
Oh, it's gonna be ready that day. Okay. So. Okay. Any questions for Rob or Mr. Reagan? Thanks, guys. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had for a workshop. Item, Mr. Mayor.
And we're gonna go back to discussion items. We're gonna have a discussion regarding any schedule matters. Does anybody have any schedule issues? We'll move to reports from members of council, and we'll start with Councilwoman Napolitano.
Thank you. Well, since our last meeting, I had the opportunity to go on a tour of our township facilities, hosted by Scott. And sort of an all-day thing. Councilman Newcomer was also there. First we went to the Department of Public Works, and Ken Ewers showed us around, at their location in their garage. He took us out to the composting facility, which at this time of year, it's really important to remember you can get free compost there, or free mulch there, if you haul it yourself. So that's a great service that we provide to our residents. And Bill Butler, our superintendent of utilities, took us around our water and sewer treatment facilities in town, which was surprisingly interesting to me. I have to admit, you might want to hold your nose now and then while you're there, but they have a great operation going on there. And we went to the water. Facility. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And it's really fascinating to see how it's been modernized in some ways, but I mean a lot of the methods used there are still functional. functional. It's really fascinating. In fact, there's the oldest well in Morristown. You can kind of see there's a circular building right on the edge of the property. You can see it from the other side in Strawbridge Lake Park. Then we went to the police department. Harry Johnson was kind enough to bring us around, doing some really great things with technology at the police department. Moving some documentation online for compliance. They were showing us their ability to track all of our patrol cars from the police department, which is really fascinating, first of all, but it's, for setting up a perimeter, for dispatch, it's extremely helpful. And their license plate imaging software, it's amazing how they pull, numbers out of just the images. And then finally we went to the rec center to visit with Teresa Miller. We got there right around 3 p.m. So we got to hear the first kids coming in and bouncing basketballs down in the gym. And it's great to see that that project has paid off. It's getting a lot of use. Kind of my overall takeaway from that experience, and something I'm really proud to say, is that our directors are doing an extremely good job of doing more with less, which in this economy is something that is extremely important. All of them have smaller budgets than they did 10 years ago. They have smaller staffs than they had, but they're still really providing great services to the citizens of our town. And, if it wasn't for their hard work, there's no way we would be able to introduce a budget today that doesn't raise taxes. So, I give a lot of credit to them, and it was really an interesting day, and I hope to maybe even do that again sometime. And so that's really it. It was a really good experience, and I really commend our directors.
Thank you, Victoria. Deputy Mayor Jordan.
Thank you. Just wanted to let you know that our tree committee did meet. I unfortunately was not able to be at the meeting, but I will take on the role of Rosemary Nichols, who is a longtime member of the tree committee. Do not put mulch volcanoes around your trees. Most people in this room know what that is. So if you're out there putting mulch around your trees, do not let them volcano up around the trunk of the tree. I hope Rosemary appreciates me putting that flag in front of her. Also, we are just starting to plant new trees around town, and if you are interested in getting a tree, please let our Public Works, Brian, who does our tree planting, let him know. He's always looking for places to put trees, and it just, to me, is what makes Morristown a great town with all the wonderful trees we have around. EDAC had to cancel the meeting because I guess it was a spring break kind of a time, and a lot of the members couldn't be there. So we are just going to meet the following month.
Nice.
Bring back any information I have when we have a meeting.
Thank you, Stace. Councilman Newcomer.
Yes, I was really, really happy that after a year, we were trying to get to a tour. We got to a tour. I was really happy to go along with Victoria. And it was really enlightening to me. I've been to a lot of the places, but not all the places in the town, and I did not know that there are 14 different stations for pumping different things in the town that Bill Butler actually told us about, let alone the sewer plant. So there's a lot of energy. That's just one thing. As well, in a couple of the departments, I would say that we have a great deal of opportunities in improving the very hard work that the directors do by improving the IT and the energy use. And I saw many things we could work on. I hope we will work on that in the near future, as a matter of fact. And of course, almost $700,000 improvements that Mr. Reagan designed, particularly, and we funded and went through our marvelous thing. I always thought the rec building could be used forward, and we finally stepped up and made it happen. And Teresa's doing a great job with that. All the directors are. In addition, I have an update for the agenda of when we are ready.
An update on the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now's a good time.
Okay, just wanted to see if we could, and we talked about this before, when we were all here, we were going to discuss whether to bring up the smoking in parks item. I would suggest actually that we reissue the original ordinance item and then actually not discuss it now, but after we have time to review it again, and in light of, for instance, other folks who have looked at it now too, then discuss it. I would suggest that, bring it up another as agenda item then in the future.
Well, I mean, I think everyone knows my position on that. I mean, I don't wanna, I would say that even if it's on the agenda, I'm not gonna support it, but if there are other members who want it on the agenda and would support it, you know, we can poll council, but does council want it on the agenda?
I personally don't see a reason.
Any other?
No.
Right.
Okay, and I express my disappointment of that.
Okay.
The actual item has a lot of different meanings to me, and I'll address them in my closing remarks.
Sure.
Okay.
Phil?
I had the opportunity to go to the Arbor Day celebration last Friday over at Wesley Bishop Park North. It was a lovely day. Planted a very nice maple tree. Other than that, nothing to report.
Thank you, Phil. And my report I have is I also was at the Arbor Day celebration. It was a great time. Arbor Day dates back to the late 1800s in this country, but it's celebrated worldwide, which I didn't know. But I did present a proclamation naming, I believe it was April 25th, as Arbor Day in Morristown, and I presented the proclamation to John Gibson, who's here today. And that is all for my report. Scheduling items, does anybody have any items they would like to schedule? Hearing none, we'll move on to upcoming meetings. The meeting on May 12th, 2014 has been canceled as outlined by Mr. Carew in his in the workshop. So we will so the next meeting is May 19th, 2014, 7:30 p.m. in the new town hall. So it's not going to be here. You're free to come here on May 19th, but we're not going to be here. So we've already gone through agenda updates. And now we're going to go to the consent agenda resolution. Mr. Manager, if you could read them by title.
Did we adopt the consent?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to have resolution number 103 handled as a separate matter.
Sure, that's fine. But we have to,
Well,
okay. 103.
I would also like to pull another matter, which is the Tuesday train, which is 26/2014, also pulled, considered separate.
What's the number on that, Greg?
I'm sorry, it's
106.
106-26.
Okay, you got it right. Any motion for that?
A motion to adopt it as amended.
Move to adopt as amended.
Thank you, Greg. Second? Is there a second?
Was that you second?
No, I was asking for a second.
I'll second.
I was loud about it. Okay.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Mr. Napolitano?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. O'Hagan? Mayor Diakio?
Yes. How are we gonna, Scott? Read them?
we're gonna go to ordinance first, right?
Yep.
All right, the first ordinance is number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going on. We're all out of order. I apologize. Well, I have.
I got you. I know what you're doing. That's what we just did.
That's what this is. Okay, so now we move, Yep.
Yep.
All right, folks. We're going to go to item 7 on the agenda. This is what happens when we go out of order. Resident requests and presentations. We ask residents to come down, state your name. Hopefully you'll form a request or ask for a presentation. State your address as well. Sir?
Yes, John Gibson, 306 East Central, also chairman of the Tree Planning and Preservation Committee. Thank you. Number one, I'd like to thank the council members who were and Scott who were at the Arbor Day festivities. It was very nice to Day, we, as Phil said, we planted a very nice red maple tree. Also, during that presentation, during my remarks, I recognized Paul Fitzgerald, who's a senior climber who retired on February 28th, which is 2 months ago, as from the Public Works Department. And I guess my concern is the tree department, the shade tree department in Public Works is now down to one person. So I question how safe it is to use the bucket truck anymore, because there isn't two qualified people. And you know, we've got trees to plant. We're going to be planting 91 trees, which I know they use other people throughout the Public Works to help with that, but they also have to maintain them. So I'm concerned that 2 months have gone by and there's not been a replacement selected by that. So that's I guess my request is there something going on? Is it going to happen? I'm concerned also about the management plan. You know, we provide a 5-year management plan where we limit the township's risk of liability through tree hazards. And if we get down to nobody in the tree department, you know, it's going to be difficult to maintain that plan. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Are we working on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So make sure we're moving forward with that. Yeah.
Sir.
Good evening. Edwin Begg, 209 Perry Drive. For the last several meetings, I've come with the thought, maybe I should ask, but I always conclude, well, never ever going to happen again. But it keeps happening. And tonight, with the students who were with us and now gone, I guess I think maybe I should ask a question. And in my mind, I'm not sure I know what question to ask, and if it's even possible to get an answer. And what I'm talking about is violence in high schools. You know, last week, some kid in Connecticut stabs a would-be girlfriend with a knife. A month or so ago, some kid out in western Pennsylvania brought a knife or knives to school and stabbed several of his classmates. December 2012, of course, is Newtown, little kids. And it goes on and on back, and I don't have to repeat any of those. And the question of, in the area of what question to ask, I guess I could sum it down to maybe focus on our police officers and what training do they get and what protocol have they been trained to use. And for example, in the area of protocol, if you're confronting a kid, and I'm also talking about the possibility of Morristown Mall, just the schools, but let's keep the schools. You could, and this decision snap. It's not going to be a decision called back to the sergeant back at the headquarters. It's going to be right then and there. Talk this kid down, person down, shoot the maim, you know, the leg, arm, whatever, or worst case, shoot to kill. And this is, or has to be done in a split second. So I guess my question is, what training are our officers exposed to, and what protocols are included in part of that training?
Mr. Begg, I can assure you the police department, especially our school resource officer, who's in the schools on a day-to-day basis, are constantly going through updated training through our insurance JIF, through the State Attorney General's office, as new ways at addressing these issues come about in improved ways. Our police department's constantly renewing any potential training that can help. We're also going through the process of police accreditation, which not very few police departments have. But we actually have an officer who's spending a lot of time on that. In terms of the specific protocol, even if I was privy to everything that the police have in their plans to deal with an active shooter in a school, in the mall, it would not be something I would share with the public. It would essentially be broadcasting our strategy to the people we want to apply that strategy against.
No, my question, is there such training?
Absolutely.
How often is it? And does every officer get it? Like once a year or whatever?
The school resource officer does receive separate training. We actually have more than one officer that gets that training. But that's separate training than, say, what our patrol officers would get. But the officers, like I said, are constantly going through training, almost on a monthly basis. They're going to seminars, people are coming in, we're getting films and videos from our insurance JIF. It's a never-ending process, both from the police administration side and the rank and file.
You mentioned what?
The tactical response part of it is confidential for obvious reasons, but there is a plan.
No, I did.
Yeah, you understand that. There's a plan in place though, for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned we have a police resource officer.
School resource officer, correct.
Help me out, whether 3 elementary schools, there's upper elementary, the middle school, plus the high school, that's 6 buildings, so we obviously don't have, and I'm asking or suggesting that there be, we put 5 more police officers in the other buildings, but we have a lot of buildings that aren't, locally occupied. Okay. As they opened up, I don't know what question they had asked, and I'm not sure.
Well,
there's a good answer.
I'll say as a parent of 2 small children, that's a concern, and I feel that the school, that everyone does the best they can, given the circumstances, but given the society we live in and the freedoms we have.
Well, and the school district has policy in place as well in terms of what they have in terms of getting into the buildings while the children are in the buildings. There are certain doors locked, there are certain doors obviously you can't because they're fire egress, but the school district has in place comprehensive plans for the safety of the children, and I've got 2 kids in the district as well. It's can never be perfect, but I think we're as well prepared as any community to deal with the situation.
Would it be possible to ask Mr. Johnson, in light of Mr. Begg's suggestion, what we may do currently, if he has some suggestion himself? Mr. Johnson is a professional in that area.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, Mr. Begg is suggesting that we have more police coverage in the schools, and we already have a shared service for the school. Mr. Johnson might give us an opinion on that due to the current things Mr. Begg is.
I'm not suggesting any solution or any problem. I'm asking,
We can ask the question.
we keep living in a Stephen King story.
I certainly could ask him, and I could say with a high level of confidence what I think that answer would be, which is with enough money, you can hire enough police officers to have every corner safe in town. The fact of the matter is the SRO, 10/12 of his salary essentially, while school is in session, 10 months out of the year, the school district pays for the salary of the SRO. If the school district would like to triple that, we could have triple the officers. If council wanted to spend more on of the township's money on patrol, I would guess, we could still ask Harry, but I would guess, having had many conversations with him about this, he would feel it more effective for crime fighting to have extra resources in the cars working patrol. The fact of the matter is, like we discussed, there's one SRO officer and there's 5 different schools. The chance that the SRO officer is going to be the first responder to an emergency situation is not very likely. Then that's not what the SRO's main job is. The SRO's main job is to be a presence in the district. The kids, know and trust the SRO officer. He's able to put in preventative crime methods through the whole district. He's not, his main reason for being is not to be the first responder in an emergency situation. That's going to be our patrol, and followed up by the county's tactical. So it's all a matter of money. If you spend enough money, you can solve almost any problem.
Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong, that we have to do something, I'm just asking.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor.
And to be fair to the other side, the school equation, which we don't have here, and I'm not asking or suggesting either, but really, that same question should be asked of the, I guess we don't have an official school superintendent, but the acting Mahaf, whoever it is in school, maybe might think about, well, because it's got to be both the police and the school operation within the school building itself. But thank you for your comment.
Mr. Begg's questions perhaps be addressed in the JIF discussion we were going to have, for quite some time now, when that comes about. I believe it was like April of last year, we were going to go forward with that, and actually I reported on going to a JIF meeting and decided we were going to go do that. That would be also kind of almost the same discussion. It'd be interesting if we had Harry's thoughts on school safety, children, and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think I have an easier question for you. Nancy Newcomer, 235 Fellowship Road. I just wanted to bring up again, since we're getting closer into May, and we've canceled that one meeting. I wanted to ask if we've had a chance, and if we know the schedule for the power washing of the Memorial Field wall in advance of Memorial Day.
Yes, we do. May 16th.
Thank you. I told you it was an easy.
Let's hope it doesn't knock down the old part of the wall.
Let's keep our fingers.
No, but that's yes, Ms. Newcomer, when Karen and I do our follow-up, that's one of the things that we anticipated having been answered today. May 16th is unscheduled.
Sir.
George Williams, 512 North Stanwick Road, Morristown. I understand the town hall came in on time, on budget, and the change orders were less than 3%. Most of the people here don't realize what an undertaking that is. So I think council deserves a congratulations, especially our township manager, Scott Peru, because I know, Scott, you're probably there every day. Just about.
Just about.
Just about. It's not an easy task, it takes a long time to achieve, and to actually come in, I mean, consider your government, to actually come in on budget and on time.
You know what we are, George.
That's a great comment, so I congratulate you.
Thank you.
Trust me, it's not lost on us.
The town hall task force was a big help in getting it to planning.
Paul Conlow, 443 North Church. I'm going to second that, and also, it really looks great. I think the architect really deserves a lot of credit.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Would you mind repeating your name, please?
Paul Conlow, 443 North. It really is nice. I wanted to ask some questions about the capital budget. Is this the right time to do that?
Sure.
Mr. Crew mentioned, I think the last meeting, whenever that was, 750,000 for Wesley Bishop North, is that right?
It was various improvements for Wesley Bishop North, Jeff Young, and I believe, yeah, it was those two sites. It was a potential softball field that will only happen if the softball organization pays for it to happen. A lacrosse, extension of a lacrosse field that will only happen if the lacrosse club pays for that to happen. So we have been working with those two organizations, with our park planner and engineer, to come up with a solid estimate on what those projects will cost, and then how much it will, the town's annual bond payments would be, to see if they can handle, and then we would enter a signed agreement with them prior to council being asked to approve that component. There also were some other projects within that 700,000, refurbishing the hockey rink at Jeff Young. There are some drainage issues south of the new turf field at Wesley Bishop that we're looking to deal with. And I think there was also some drainage issues at Jeff Young as well. We still have a project that we had funding for last year for Memorial Park to redo the track and some drainage, but part of that $700,000 is a little extra just to make sure we have enough to complete the drainage problems at Memorial, because they're fairly substantial. And I believe that's it for the park.
So is the capital budget just sort of a blueprint, and then it has to go out to, it has to be bonded, or when you approve the capital budget, is that sort of, this is gonna happen?
No, that's an excellent way to put it. It is a blueprint, and then what will happen is each project within the capital budget that's laid out will be put into a bond ordinance for council to vote on. And unlike most council votes, it's a supermajority, 4/5 have to approve the vote. How those bonds are put together will be up to Mr. Michelle in terms of what's the most opportune way to do it for the town's finances. But certainly, if there's any projects that council either certainly wants to do or certainly doesn't want to do, it'll happen, you know, regardless of you know, what's in the quote-unquote capital budget now. The main reason that we identify potential projects now is, one, so council can consider them and have any potential discussion. But two, we do have to raise enough money for a down payment for potentially everything in there that's going to pass. So that has to go in the operating budget.
You'd also mentioned about the police cars.
Right.
There were there 5 of them?
There were 5.
And that's the same thing. That's a sort of a wish list, of, and then it would go through the bonding and everything.
Right.
They were Tahoes. I guess it worked out to be about 50,000 a piece. Is that?
Well, yeah, because when you buy a police vehicle, it's not only the cost of the vehicle itself, and there's a police package that goes along with it. Yeah, the radios, all the special equipment that goes in.
Is there a cheaper option? In other words, you had mentioned the weather, you know, for a Tahoe, which is understandable.
Well,
but what are the options in that?
Well,
or is this too premature to be talking?
No. It's actually a very good question, because different towns take different routes to buy vehicles for their police department. Mount Laurel, for example, still has a lot of sedans, and they struggle this past winter to respond to various emergencies. Big town. Usually the decision to go with a sedan or an SUV is actually not only a functional one in terms of the all-wheel drive capabilities of getting through with an SUV, it's also a financial decision, because the state allows you to capitalize an SUV, and it does not allow you to capitalize a sedan for whatever reason. So if the township wanted to buy sedans, we would have to put those in our regular budget instead of having, you know, the ability to finance them, which we could do through our capital.
Do you know roughly what the difference in price would be between the two?
I haven't seen a price for a new.
What are the sedans they use now? Are they
Mostly Dodge Chargers these days.
I would say about 42,000 for the sedans and 35 for an SUV before you start putting the packages on those.
Right. Then within the SUV, there's obviously different ranges too. And typically police departments like to go with the larger vehicles like a Tahoe or a Suburban because there's so much that goes physically into the vehicle. My last time I worked in they had Dodge Durangos. And if you were taller than 5'6", you were going to be in a lot of pain sitting in the back of one of those. A lot of people would say, well, so what? But so it's there's a lot of different nuanced things that go into
Just one more thing. The license plate recognition software that you had mentioned. There are privacy issues that go along with that kind of thing. I'm not really familiar with them all, but we talk about privacy at every level of government now, and they can be invasive. For instance, they have the software. What does it do? I mean, they see your license plate in the dark. They see it. They see it all the time. And where does it go? Who gets that information? I mean, I don't particularly care myself, but at the same time, there are privacy issues at every level of government, and shouldn't we be thinking about what's the benefit of it? What do we get out of it?
It is a crime fighting tool, and I can tell you that the police, and they showed this to the councilman who came on the tour, when you have to log in and you're logged in, so there is an electronic record of who has looked at what. When they showed us the technology, they actually showed us a maple-shaped police car because of privacy issues. They did not want to show us a private vehicle. They could not show us, I should say, a private vehicle.
They couldn't show you a private vehicle, but they see a private. I mean,
if they have if they have a reason from a criminal investigation standpoint.
But don't they just sit and read license plates? I mean, they don't need probable cause or anything like that. They just sit there and read license plates, don't they? And record.
You're getting a little bit too deep into the weeds in terms of my understanding of this. But
I mean, I know nothing about it. I mean, I don't know anything about it either. But I do think that we should know about it because privacy is an issue, and I don't understand it. I don't know anything about it. But don't they just sit there and read everything that goes by and record everything that goes by? And not for any nefarious purpose or anything, but that's what they do.
No, I don't think that's what they do. You're talking about like patrol?
Yeah, if a patrol vehicle has one on it and it's parked and just isn't it recording and it's turned on? It's just recording everything.
No, they specifically have to look at the license plate. It's not an automatic. It's not like when they're doing a speed trap, like each car that goes by, they're recording it. I don't believe, and I'll double check, but I don't believe that's how it works.
I just thought I'd bring it up and worth checking. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bob Zenik. I live at 626 East Main Street in Moorestown. It was a couple things. I was wondering about the power washing that's going to occur at Memorial Field on the wall. Will that be billed to the guy who hit the wall?
No.
On an insurance claim?
Because it's an annual event that Public Works does. It has the fact that we're having the wall power wash has nothing to do with the accident. It's just.
No, I'm not saying it does, but wouldn't it be billed so we could compare how the bricks matched and all that other stuff if the bricks were clean? Since the guy hit the wall in the first place, now we're going to power wash the wall.
We power wash the wall every year.
Yeah, that's not my
So
question.
I don't understand why we would bill the.
Well, if we were, since right now the wall was damaged, we should have it power washed and bill it to his insurance company anyway. This way, and instead of paying our own funds for it, we're entitled to see if the bricks match, and if they don't match, that's our decision whether we take it or not. And the guy did hit the wall. You know, I guess if you hit your siding on your house, you would get the rest of the house power washed to see if it matches the siding that the contractor put up. And there was a couple things about the school that they mentioned. There is something that happens at one of the schools, and it's at the upper elementary school, that Martin Marietta sends a microwave over the top of the building, about 150 feet up. And it orbits around the building. And if it malfunctions, it's supposed to point straight up in the air. Well, several years ago it malfunctioned, and there was a worker on the roof, and it burnt him. So I think that maybe we should check into requiring Martin Marietta to put an alarm system for microwaves in the school that's tied into the fire alarm system that the kids would know to get out of the building. Because right now, if the thing malfunctions and hits the building, nobody even knows about it. It just keeps bombarding our kids with microwaves that has had they think it may have a detrimental effect to the molecular structure in your body. And, I mean, they have to go for a CO, I would think, each year. And
I don't know. That's a good question. We'll find out for you, Mr. Dean.
yes, sir.
You might speak to the environmental manager, Mark Marietta, for that.
I have no idea.
And that's probably a really good question to take to the Board of Ed. It's really, I don't think, something that we.
Yeah, but it goes through us whether we give them a certificate of occupancy. It goes through the government, and it doesn't go through the Board of Education whether they receive it or not.
We should find the best way.
They already have
find
it.
Yeah,
out.
so maybe some kind of
We
cooperation.
already have a CO though.
Pardon me?
We already have a CO. You don't get a CO every year.
They're getting a CO on that building they're putting up now.
The new building?
They're gonna have to get one, and that would be a great time to ask them. And I really, Ms. Jordan, I heard you congratulating the girl about that she's on your daughter's rowing team and stuff like that, and she's the coxswain on the team. And I think that's great. You see, I have a daughter too. My daughter's a little, just to give you a little background of her, it's a little tiny thing, maybe 4'10", 4'11". She's plagued with a chronic disease, chronic lung disease. And even though she has it, she worked really hard for 4 years and joined the cheerleaders in Morristown. She volunteered since she got out of high school, but in high school she rose up and became captain of the cheerleaders, which is quite an accomplishment for her because she gasps for air. Pardon me? She gasps for air. And so, you know, since she was so tiny, she was the flyer, and they would throw her around. And they were supposed to catch her, and most of the time they did, but sometimes she didn't. They didn't, and she took a beating. But she plugged in there every day and went there every day. There was one game against Holy Cross where it was brutally cold. And I could take the cold pretty good, but I was suffering. But she kept the cheerleaders there, and the band went home because it was too cold. I mean, even the Titanic had a band before it went down, and Morristown didn't. She hung in there, and I think that her behavior is nothing short of inspirational. And that's why I'm here. Now, you say that there's no reason, and you don't see any problem at all. Mayor Ciaccio did. But I'm asking Stacy Jordan. There is a problem. Most municipalities in the state of New Jersey are moving towards having their parks and recreational centers smoke-free. All the schools and all the school grounds have that now. Now they say, I don't see a problem. Mayor Ciaccio's children are blessed with good health. There's no problem. So is yours, no problem. But it's the minorities, the few, that need help. And I'm asking you to support that. And I applaud Mr. Newcomer for his courage and his heartfulness. Thank you very much for bringing this up a second time. I checked into a couple of yous, and I'd like to ask Mr. Garwood, I understand that you're something of an expert in respiratory therapy. maybe not the expert, but you have more than the average bear.
Okay.
Does secondhand smoke out in the public have a detrimental effect to people?
You know, thank you for asking me that question. I've done an extensive review of literature that I could find online, and I could find 0 articles that showed single source outdoor tobacco smoke to be a health hazard. I reviewed upwards of 20 articles. Most of them had groups of smokers of 18 or more in a confined area such as a bar, outdoor designated smoking spot, or a patio at a restaurant. And even at that point, when you got within 2 meters, outside of 2 meters of that group, the concentration of the plume went down.
Well,
So,
there are
to answer your
articles.
question, if on an outdoor park, there is 0 health hazard from a single source tobacco. Okay, there's no harm in it. So the science isn't there to back that up.
Well, the New Jersey Department of Health, in March 2013, according to Commissioner Mary O'Dowd, says that there is.
Well, I think if you went and reviewed the literature that they're quoting, they're talking about clusters of cigarettes and clusters of smokers for a prolonged period of exposure. They're not talking about outdoor, wide open outdoor. So that, to me, that just does not show.
Well, most of the communities in New Jersey are recommended that the parks and rec centers be smoke-free. Most municipalities in New Jersey are moving in that direction. And United States Center for Disease Control recommends that we protect our children by making our public parks smoke-free. So I'm asking you to reconsider that. On Arbor Day, there was a guy smoking there. So she can't go. And I realize it doesn't bother you, it bothers her. And each of us should protect our children. If we protect them in the schools, and we find a use of it in the schools, that it's smoke-free in the schools, then I seriously contest the stuff that you have come up with now, because otherwise the school has no justification to stop smoking either, on the school grounds at all. And I'm asking you to reconsider that ordinance, since most municipalities are moving in that direction. And I think it's something that should be brought up. And I'm asking Mayor Jordan, Deputy Mayor Jordan, how do you feel about it?
I actually have been on so many of our fields and recreation areas. Strawbridge Lake, for the past 22 years I've lived in town, and I've raised 4 children here, and not once have I seen someone smoking at one of their sporting events.
They were at Arbor Day.
I unfortunately was not able to go to Arbor Day this year. Last year at Arbor Day I didn't see anybody smoking. I think it's, when we start putting these laws in that affect 1 or 2 people, and I mean the people that are smoking, I don't think it's a benefit. I think it becomes, our society has so many laws and regulating so many things that it's too hard to even, regulate or to enforce. Thank you. And so I just think, if I saw that as a problem, and I thought there were too many people smoking at these events.
I'm not saying too many. I'm saying even one.
I disagree with you how you feel about the one person in a acres of a field. I can't see us putting a law in the books to do that. I just don't think it is worthwhile.
Well, like we went for the trash, saying that most people go into privatization of trash, most municipalities are going to eliminate smoke as well. So if we're using that basis, I think that it's worthwhile. Are you against it then?
Yes. I feel for you, and I feel for your daughter, and I commend you.
Well, you're in a
for what you've
position
done.
to do something about it.
Honestly, I don't think that putting that law in the books will do anything.
Mr. Zach.
I really don't.
Mr. Zach, I would like to thank you for bringing this up again. I also like to say that people who may have attained the age that you and I have seen a lot of people who have died from those
You're much younger than me.
Thank you so much. Who have died from the issues that are related to smoking.
It sets a poor example for our children. It pollutes. We spend so much money on our sports fields, and
I
guys
thank
taking
you for bringing
cigarettes
it up.
and littering.
And I'll have some other remarks at the end of it.
I don't see anybody smoking at our sports field. And I'm there I'm there a lot.
Well, then it wouldn't really matter than if
And I
you put
don't-
it on the
I don't-
books then, because it.
But I just don't feel like
It's right. The measure of whether we do something isn't, well, just because, it's whether we think it's right and whether it can be enforced.
So
I don't
you think,
it's-
you don't think it's
I
right?
don't think it's right, no, I don't, and I don't think it can be enforced. I don't think it addresses the problem.
That's it. I don't think it does address the problem. I don't think there's a
If
problem.
there was a problem, we'd address it, I don't think it addresses
If
the
we had a
problem.
lot of people smoking at the sports field, I would agree with you 100% and would say you shouldn't do it. But, you know, you're talking about the schools, it's a confined building. And you're
No, outside too.
Just around the
On
perimeter.
all the grounds, the sports fields, everywhere where the school grounds are, it's outlawed.
I just feel that there is no problem with it on our sports fields and in our parks.
But there is in the schools then.
The reason that the
It's not-
schools
it's not
don't want
tennis and
smokers
people.
is so that they don't have bad examples for children.
Exactly, you
It's not
answered
about
that.
health.
And then at the sporting fields, it doesn't matter for our children.
I don't think there's anybody smoking at our sporting fields. I mean, I've been there all weekend, this past weekends before, I haven't seen anybody smoking.
Mr. Zane, we respect your opinion, you're entitled to it, we have ours, and we hope you respect ours as well.
I think they have yours, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Jack Lance, 302 East Main Street. I'm sorry. Do I got that? 302 East Main Street. Miss Jordan, I'm sorry. I have 8 children. I'm on the sporting fields all day and night. Sometimes that's all I do all weekend. And I really, really don't want to put anybody on the spot. I'm sure you can figure it out. My 11-year-old's coach lit up 3 times during a practice. 3 times. For you to say, well, I'm there and I don't see anything, it's unbelievably out of control. And honestly, I'm a smoker. I'm a smoker. I'm not here to argue, I feel it's wrong, but it's wrong for a coach to light up 3 times and then for you to sit there and say, I don't see it once.
I haven't seen it once, and that's.
I'm sorry you haven't, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
You're absolutely right, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I don't think it is a major problem. You're saying it's completely out of control.
It's out of control. If you
it's
go
out of
to the
control, I
parks,
think there'd be a lot more people smoking on the weekends.
a coach smoking 1 time, is that wrong or right?
I don't think anybody should smoke.
Okay,
I'm not-
but a coach in front of the
I'm
kids
against
as he's
smoking. I don't
having a
think kids should
practice.
smoke, I don't think people should smoke, that's my, but I don't believe we should have to put a
Well,
law.
that's what I'm asking, man. That's a good question. So do I take that in my own
Sure,
hands?
that's what you do anyway, if the law was passed, that's what you have to do anyway. What are you gonna do?
That's what I had to do anyway.
You can be like my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, who whenever she sees someone smoking at a store, in the grocery store, by the grocery store.
So if that's
she
the
goes by
case,
and
then
tells
why
them it's-
wouldn't we consider this? I don't understand. It seems like you're for it, but you don't want to consider
Because
it.
I don't believe we have to put a law on something that I don't see there as a major problem. I think if we keep putting laws and laws and laws on the book, how many laws are on the books that aren't enforced?
I can respect that, and I do understand that point. I do.
We'll put this on the books, and then
I do understand
that's my
that.
problem with it.
But I guess it's also the same sense in my mind. It's just that the state.
It'd be better to have a campaign against smoking, and maybe go through RAC and say, we don't want our coaches smoking, we don't want our people.
That's
but
a great idea.
But I don't believe we should have a law, because I don't see it as a major problem. But if we want to let's put a campaign together.
Yeah,
I
well,
would
there
be
you
behind
go.
that. No problem.
Okay.
Mr. Lance, can I just ask,
Yeah.
was this a township recreation program?
Yes, it was.
All right.
And unfortunately, to answer the mayor's question, I wasn't present during this. My son came home and displayed this to me because this discussion. Excuse me.
Yeah, because I'll reach out to you.
I'm sorry. Do we have an issue? Is that?
I just don't believe you.
You don't believe me? Okay.
I saw a coach smoking 3 times and I wasn't there.
So now I should say my son's a liar. Okay.
Oh, I just
So
think we
so
should-
what I'm saying is my
let's do a
son
campaign.
comes.
Let's just do a campaign, and let's
Gentlemen,
go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was trying to get back. Maybe we should do a camp. If council doesn't want to do anything about it, then what can we do about a campaign or making it known that?
We don't see it as a problem, that's why we're not, I want to make it clear. We don't, I've never, like, I've been on these parks for 7 years, I've never seen anybody smoke. It's my experience. I've never, and you may have a different one. Like Deputy Mayor Jordan, I've never seen anybody, no one's ever come anywhere near my kid with a cigarette. And if they did, I'd ask them to put it out. If they told me to get lost, I would move. That's exactly, and if we pass the law, that's exactly what we would have to do anyway. Because what am I going to do? Stand there, I'm going to call 911 and the criminals, and it's gonna come and ask the person to put it out, and, you know.
Maybe.
So to say that we're not gonna do anything about it, we don't see it as a problem, which is why we're not addressing it.
And Mr. Lance, I disagree with the problem. I think it should be addressed.
Yeah,
I think we should do that as far as that goes. In regards to the enforcement of it, certainly the people who don't have to smoke in restaurants or can't smoke in restaurants, won't smoke in our new town hall because it's not organized, and smoke in other public places, have actually adopted the culture because most smokers are law-abiding, orderly people, and they would adapt to this culture. Certainly that's what the Burlington County freeholders thought when they passed this resolution.
Correct.
Fair enough. Okay. Sir? Point?
Yeah, no, I think that, I guess my point is that if we have recognition in town, if we start a committee for non-smoking in town, and we suggest that it's not good for your health, it's not good for our children, that's just as well. I think my whole point with this is that we get it out to the community that it's not good. I mean, we all know it's not good. And I think our council being supportive of that, I think that at the end of the day, that's what would be beneficial.
And just to add, and this is why I asked the question before, because we have a lot of private sports organizations down, none of which I would imagine would tolerate their coach smoking during the child's practice, and I just couldn't imagine Michelle and his son and my son playing the same soccer team, someone lighting up near, it wouldn't be a pretty sight.
No.
But if this was a township program, well, I understand what council's saying about a general enforcement about, just smoking anywhere in the park. That's one thing. There's no doubt, though, that we can and we will enforce a ban so coaches are not smoking at our events. That's goes without question. If you don't mind, I'll reach out to you.
No,
and
absolutely.
get
If
this
the
guy's
gentleman
name.
who doesn't believe me or can't, I actually didn't believe my own son there for a moment. How could coach isn't going to light up, especially 3 times? 3 times did. No, are you sure? And I can't see that truly happening in my own mind. I just can't believe a coach would do that. But I have no reason to doubt my son and think he's right. Thank you.
Sir?
Mike Locatel, 526 East Main Street. I have 3 kids playing sports all over town. 3 nieces and nephews playing sports all over town. I've been on, I don't know, how many fields over dozens of years. I've never seen an issue with somebody smoking on the fields, ever. I've never seen an issue of it down at Strawbridge Lake. Not that I haven't seen people walking their dog smoking a cigarette, but I've never seen this conflict between health and safety and somebody enjoying their personal liberty. And my daughter has asthma. She struggles, especially this time of year, with the allergies. She plays on the same softball team as Jack's daughter for 2 years now.
2 years.
And I've
Good
never
team.
seen anybody smoking at those games, Jack. So the bigger issue I have here for my daughter's future is not secondhand smoke 15 feet away if somebody was to smoke on one of those venues. It's that she actually gets to grow up in an America where you get to do stuff still. And what I see is that anytime there's a problem anymore, especially in most of the municipalities in New Jersey that are Democrat and very liberal thinking, let's get the government to solve the problem. And the government will solve one problem. And in solving one problem, they will create 15 new problems. This legislative mentality of let's engineer society through legislation is idiotic, and it's destroying us wholly across the land here. The affordable health care is probably a good example of that. I don't know anybody that can afford it, and the services are much worse than what we had previously. I don't want to get tail off into that too much. But I would applaud you if you stand up and actually, because at this level of government, we need our government to stand up to that, I don't know, nanny state philosophy of we got to solve it. We got to create an ordinance. We got to create a law to solve something that's not even a hyper problem. There's no real problem here. Greg, you say this is a problem. Where have you seen this problem? Because I have not seen this in literally a dozen years of 15 different sports venues in town.
Thank you, Mike, very much for what you have to say. I have a different experience in regards to the towns and seeing cigarette butts kind of on the grounds of, for instance, the Pack Lot in Morristown and other places, just that. Then I have a specific general problem with smoking. One of my very good friends, Melissa Gilfillan, recently died of throat cancer with smoking when she was younger. I smoked until I was 30 when I had my first son. This kind of idea that it's an okay thing, to me, should be removed, and it has been, if you know, certainly, Mike, as a builder, removed from public places, as I said before. We won't smoke in the new town hall, we won't smoke if it causes cancer, as smoking does, 1 and 2.
Honestly,
and
processed foods are higher causing, has more cancer.
And 2, the Bryan County Freeholders, which is not the majority of a party, it's a party, other party, actually was one of the people, and there are many other folks in the state who saw, as I do, this problem, because smoking is a pervasive culture thing, and I think this helps us remove that culture. That's my concern.
Well, speaking to the freeholders, we don't know what they deliberated on, discussed, or what problems they were facing when they, I mean, they're within their purview are the county parks. So we don't know what problems they were facing.
Nor do we know all of the other places.
Right, so all we have is our little town here, and
I understand, but we need, I was giving Mr. Lippincott another example of other people who, because he had brought up those other municipalities.
Well, Greg, the other issue I have is I'm trying to understand, as a guy that's known you for a lot of years and certainly respected you as Citizen of the Year, you came into this council with one of your agenda issues, living civilly, okay? And the folks that got you elected routinely now, and I've watched this on something called Open Door, am I getting that right? Open Morristown, Open Door?
I don't know, I don't watch Open Door. I don't know anything about it.
It's produced, though, by your committee chair, your former campaign manager.
I've never looked at it.
That's who
produced my
that's who produces that, right?
Just to correct that, that's all me. Open Doors, Morristown, New Jersey is me, and I'm independent. I'm not on the Democrat or Republican.
I'm sorry, not according to Mr. Gorman, because he told me that he produced that with great pride. So
I don't have it back and forth. Yes,
I don't know. I'm sorry. I just want to let you know that is me, and I know.
My point being is that we've got this.
I have the camera right here. This is my camera myself.
Okay, we got this point in time where it's supposed to be presentations by committee or by citizens and requests. And historically, you've been in this room, way back in the old town hall. And that's been the garden club planting flowers on Main Street, and the Girl Scouts having activity, and so forth and so on. And like the begs who come up and have a question about something. And it's turned into this political theater that's going on now, where a parade of people come up and start barraging the mayor and council and on tonight the issue of smoking, where there's a contrary point of view and it's pounded at the mic, and then you sit there calmly and agree with this kind of stage 3 theatrics of politics of, oh yeah, and everything's great. And I just never knew you to be this political guy. And it's disappointing.
I'm an independent thinker. I'm also a person who believes in Morristown, and those are the reasons I'm sitting here. I believe those are the reasons I'm elected. I have disagreed and agreed with my own party and other folks, and I'll continue to do that, Mike. This is something we're talking about that I feel
the campaign manager of your campaign comes to this microphone, okay, and berates council and the township manager and the township attorney. I saw it on this Open Door thing, and you sit there quietly and don't say, hey, that doesn't represent me, and that doesn't represent what the Democrat Party should be about here in town.
Mike, I
allow it to
have been
happen.
to all the meetings. I have disagreed with Mr. Gorman many times, and Mr. Gorman will.
I'm only going by what I'm seeing on this website.
Certainly you. I will disagree and agree. I hope I'm doing the best thing for Morristown.
I hope you remember to do the best thing.
I
think
do remember every time I'm here.
Just my opinion.
The flag.
I've known you a long time.
Yes.
I think you're better than what's been going on here.
Mike, I understand that, and I'm trying to do the best thing for Morristown, and I will be an independent thinker, as I said in my campaign.
Then rein in your folks.
They're not brainable. They have their own opinion. That's part of civility. Everyone has their own opinion.
You're the party leader.
George Williams, 512 West Stanley Road, Morristown. I wasn't going to get up and speak on the topic tonight because I didn't think it was going to come up for discussion. First, I'm a smoker. I smoke moderately. I do almost everything in moderation except give opinions. They're pretty strong. And I just wanted to say, what is enough? Enough. You know, I don't smoke on my house. I can't smoke in the car. I can't smoke on the side porch. When I go to the restaurant, I don't smoke outside the door. I go back to my vehicle. Anywhere I go, I roll a cigarette butt and put it in my pocket. What is enough? Enough. And it isn't about smoking. The other gentleman spoke, he's a smoker. It's about another loss of one of my freedoms. I'm 70 years old. Maybe I'll die from cancer. My father did, he was 86, his mother was 98. They both smoked. Maybe it's in the genes, I don't know. And I don't do anything to ever inflict my smoking on anyone else, because again, I do it in moderation. But I don't like government telling me constantly what I can and can't do. I run a business for 45 years. I'm being regulated out of business. When is enough, enough? It's a freedom. I have a right to smoke. But when you tell me you can't smoke in public there and you can't smoke there, maybe I can smoke on my property until I walk on the right-of-way out in front of my property. Now I'm breaking the law. And I don't know that the police would ever want to enforce something like this anyway. They got enough to do without going around and arresting smokers who are smoking in the wrong place at the wrong time. I take my grandkids over to Wiggins Park. I don't smoke in front of them, and I don't smoke in the park. I think smokers are a lot more conscious of non-smokers than non-smokers are of smokers. Some people are offended just the idea of smoking. Get over it. Some people do. They're going to, and talking to them or berating them isn't going to stop it. All you're going to do is have a few people maybe break the law by cupping a cigarette outside of a park or at a game and trying to hide and be totally embarrassed. For what? So a few people can feel good and say, oh, we'll just pass another law. It's baloney. Enough. I mean, God, in the last 4 or 5 years, this country's going nuts with rules and regulations. I'm tired of it. I was born and raised in the 50s and the 60s. I had freedom. Not too many young people in this room understand the freedoms we had. Don't get me wrong. We do need regulation. But where does it end? I mean, I could go on and on about regulations in my business and what it's done and how it's pushed my overhead costs right through the ceiling. All because somebody wants to control. More control. I'm tired of control. Leave us alone. Okay? I don't bother anybody. In fact, now I smoke the electronic cigarettes. And lo and behold, now they're going after them. I mean, come on, you can't win. You know, smokers smoke. God bless those that quit. And if those that don't, they don't. What are you going to do? What about a pipe smoker? What about a cigar smoker? What about Colorado where everybody smokes? Marijuana. I mean, what are you going to do? Come on. This is nuts. You're going too far. Just give us a break. Smokers, the reason I think none of you people see smokers that much, and I don't know about that coach, and he shouldn't be, by the way, because he's in the presence of kids. But I think the main thing with smokers is they go so out of the way not to offend people, and yet people are still offended. Not because of the smoke, because of the idea. And nobody will ever convince me that if I blow smoke in the air, it's going to affect somebody somewhere. That's baloney. Thank you.
Live long and prosper. I hope you do.
I will. Well, I'm happy to.
Monique Bank, 209 Harry Drive. Well, I certainly have lived in smoking times. I attended meetings of the State League of Women Voters where practically everybody smoked except me. So I would be enveloped in smoke the whole time. And after a while, it even affected my thinking to some degree. But I lived in those times, so I wasn't going to do anything to stop attending meetings because of it. So people smoke everywhere, and some physicians said there's no harm done by cigarettes. I also lived in those times, you know, so I heard it all. And I say there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said for the freedom of people to smoke, and that's fine. My husband smoked a pipe until our child was born. Then he gave it up. He had the flu, and after he had the flu for 8
It
days.
doesn't look like it was too
He
long.
decided, why are we starting? I'm done. Okay, and I haven't seen the pipe, and all this has gone out of the house, and it will never return, I'm sure. So that's what it is. But I think in public places, there's a lot to be said about people really not smoking, and even if you put signs up that say no smoking, there might be a lot of more people who would obey that. Then, that would be a way of handling it. Putting but I will say that I'm so happy there's a lot less smoke all over the place, because in my way of it affected me. So I'm glad I live in better times that way. I don't say that the times are better in all areas. No, there are a lot of areas that need a lot of remedies. But I think you need regulations. And it's important to think about all this. And I don't think that people who bring these questions are wasting your time. After all, it's our meeting too. We're residents.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bob Zenick. I live at 626 East Main Street. Well, I guess I'm listening to each person talk, and you know where I stand on this, I guess. But where they say that smokers are more conscious of non-smokers than non-smokers are of the smokers, or something like that, something to that effect. Well, there's a bit of a contradiction here. As a taxpayer, it's safe to say that each one of us owns a little bit of the public space in this town. Just a little bit, if you could parcel it up. Yet this gentleman here can't smoke in his house. He can't smoke on his porch. He can't smoke in his yard, but he smokes on our public property. And I think that's hypocritical. Yes, you did say that.
No, I said in the house. I didn't say couldn't smoke in the
You
yard.
said you couldn't smoke on the porch.
Porch.
So if you can't smoke on your property, why do you smoke on ours?
Because I want to, and because I have a right to.
Well, that's what I'm asking about. If you're not allowed by your wife, why should I allow you on ours?
The law is the law.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And your wife isn't the law, but
I'm not going to quit because you want me to. Okay?
I'm not asking you to quit. I'm just asking you to respect our opinion.
Gentlemen.
I'm just asking you to respect. And anyway, I'm speaking, and I'm not speaking.
Well,
If you want to speak, come on over here. I wasn't speaking. But,
Okay.
so if he's not allowed on his property, why is he allowed on ours?
Thank you, Mr. Zig. Sure.
Bob Gorman, 123 Augusta Drive. Just want to clarify a statement that was made earlier in reference to me producing Open Doors Morristown. I do not produce it. I think it's a great site. I think the volunteers that spend countless hours videotaping these meetings so the public can see them are doing a great service to this town. And I'd like to congratulate them on that. I've congratulated them before. Jack, I know his children work doing this, and other people, and he's solicited volunteers. So while I don't produce it, I fully support it and think it's a great site, and urge everybody to log in and visit YouTube. If you're not watching this right now on YouTube, tell your friends about it, because you'll see people's opinion unaltered, and I think that's great for the taxpayers.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman.
You're welcome. And one other follow-up question. As you all know, last month I asked about legal bills, and I did finally receive them, and they were highly redacted, the ones from Cape Heart and Scatcherd. However, I did receive copies of bills also from the conflict attorneys. And one of the things I noticed with the conflict attorney bills were there were several bills about MEND. And I was wondering, what is the conflict with MEND and our president solicitor?
Well, I'll have to be completely honest with you. I am not sure what you're talking about, and I don't say that you're wrong. It's not something that I'm aware of Mr. Baxter working on, off the top of my head.
On MEND? Which
MEND,
one?
MEND projects. I'll email you the thing that Patty emailed me that lists specifically billings for MEND, and I was wondering what the conflict was.
Longmont has their own attorney on it.
We'll find out.
Excuse me, can we keep this meeting to the person at the mic and the mayor and council? Because
Mr.
the
Burns.
last person was interrupted several times. I hope it doesn't happen to me.
Nobody's interrupting you, but I'm saying we'll definitely find out the answer for you, and we'll get it for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll be back next month's meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving to ordinance on second reading, there are none. Ordinances by first reading, Mr. Manager, if you would read in by title. Keep in mind that we did take 2 out at the request of Mr. Barlow, 103, and 106 at the request of Mr. Newton.
Well, we're gonna do the ordinance for first reading first. Which, number 2-2014, an ordinance to exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A/40-45.14.
Council discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, because there's sometimes some confusion about this ordinance. It's an ordinance that we ask council to pass every year when we introduce the budget. The title of the ordinance to exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. This is annual house cleaning. The state requires us to do to carry the cap bank. Morristown hasn't been anywhere near reaching the appropriations cap. Tom's been the CFO for 15 years. Have you ever, 16, have you ever come close to reaching it?
1.34 million under.
Right, we're 1.43 million under it. This is, like I said, necessary house cleaning to help put that number into the cap bank, which at this rate will never even come close.
We always do this simultaneously with the budget introduction.
It has to be done with the budget introduction. Correct.
Questions from council?
That answered my questions. Thank you very much.
That will entertain a motion to adopt this is a public hearing date for May 19th at 7:30 p.m.
So moved.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Fiacco?
Yes, thank you. Moving to the budget resolutions. We'll do them individually, and Scott, take it away.
Yes, sir. 109-2014, it's a resolution establishing the tax levy for year 16 of the Morristown Open Space, Recreation, Farmland, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund Program.
Okay.
And that's just setting the tax rate for the open space.
This time I'd like to open the floor for public comment on that budget resolution 109-2014. If you have any questions or comments, please come to the microphone. Seeing none, I'll close that portion. Council, comment, question, or motion to adopt?
It's 1 to 6, and it's actually 1, Scott.
I'm sorry.
The 60 cents per 100 is 1 to 6. It's 1. Okay, thank you.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any roll call?
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Fiacco?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Scott, 110-2014.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, that is for introduction and approval on first reading of the 2014 budget, authorizing publication of budget and providing for a public hearing on the budget on June 9th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. in the council chambers at Town Hall, 111 West 2nd Street. How nice it is to say that.
Rolls off the tongue. Okay, and I'll open the floor for public comment on budget resolution 110-2014. If you have a question, please come down. Seeing none, I will close it. Council discussion or motion to adopt and set the public hearing for June 9th, 2014 at the new town hall.
So moved.
Second.
Patty?
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Fiacco?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. This is what I jumped earlier. Now consent agenda resolutions. Mr. Manager, if you have them by title.
And that is taking up 103 and 106.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, 95-2014 is approving participation with the state of New Jersey and a safe and secure community program administered by the Division of Criminal Justice, Department of Law and Public Safety. 96-2014 is authorizing the purchase of a new 2015 Ford F-350 pickup truck under state contract in a total amount of $31,489. 97-2014 is authorizing a second and final one-year extension of a contract to Shannon Chemical Corporation for partial delivery of liquid corrosion inhibitor sequestering agent for the Department of Public Works. 98-2014 is authorizing execution of amendment of the Green Acres Project Agreement between the State of New Jersey by the Department of Environmental Protection and the Township of Morristown. 99-2014 is authorizing the tax collector to refund overpayments. 100-2014 is authorizing the cancellation of certain water and sewer charges. 101-2014 is authorizing a contract to HD Supply Waterworks Ltd. for the purchase of water meters in an amount not to exceed $80,000. 102-2014 is authorization for the Township of Morristown to apply for and accept a sub-grant award of the federal fiscal year 2013 of the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management Performance Grant Program funding for the Township Chief Financial Officer to amend the budget and certify the availability of funds. 104-2014 is a resolution increasing the amount of the municipal court change fund. 105-2014 is awarding the contract to Paramount Enterprises, Inc. for reconstruction of Spruce Avenue and Magnolia Court in the amount of $319,835. 107-2014 is authorizing the Township of Morristown to enter into a joint purchasing agreement for the collection and disposal of trash for apartment and condominium complexes. And 108-2014 is a resolution authorizing the funding of Morristown's share of the MAX contract with Central Jersey Waste and Recycling, Inc. for basic services, solid waste collection, and Republic Services of Mount Laurel collection.
Okay, thank you, Scott. This time I'll open the floor for public comment on those consent agenda resolutions that were read. If you have any questions or comments, please come to the microphone. Sir?
Jack Lance, 302 East Main Street. So 106-214, we took that off, is that?
Mr. Newcomer has to take it off.
Okay.
It's not taken off.
It's not off the
Yeah, I
agenda.
guess it's still on the agenda, you just want to talk.
Talk about it separately, yeah.
Okay. All right, I just had a question about it. Is that, can I ask a question regarding that, or you want?
Why don't you, if you don't mind waiting.
No, I can.
Okay, well, okay, we're gonna read it, and then we'll open up the public comment on that specific one, other time to ask your question on that one.
Okay.
We'll address it separately, we'll deal with your question.
That's fine, that's fine. I guess the next one, if you don't mind, the number 13, 107-214. That's for the collection and disposal of trash. Is that, it says here, into a joint purchasing agreement. Is that something that's going off to bid, or is that something that's going to be done privately, or?
No, what it is, Mr. Lance, is when we were evaluating the privatization of sanitation collection, one, besides doing the residential trash collection in Main Street and Camden Avenue trash collection, which Casworth Enterprises is now doing, the township is required by law through the Condominium Act, and every township is, to either provide services of snow removal, trash collection for apartment and condominium complexes, to either reimburse them for that cost or to do it ourselves. And we had been doing that internally. When we decided to outsource sanitation, part of the bid that went out to bid was an alternate for this, for the apartments and condos. We got a price per lift from all the bidders, including Casworth. At the same time, we worked with MAX, is a group of, I believe, 17 towns now in Burlington County that have been together for about 6-7 years, that got together back then to create this shared service. I believe it's one of the largest in the county, in order to collect the trash at the apartments and the condos. Historically, towns just would let them take care of it and reimburse it. It became very costly. Max has saved all those towns, and I used to run one of those towns. I can tell you it's very successful. Saved them a lot of money. So what we did was compare the cost of joining Max just for the apartments and condos or having Casworth do it as an alternate that they bid on. Going with Max was the cheaper of the two options.
Okay. All right, so it is a separate company, not Catsworth, that does the
Right,
collection.
and actually the Max as a group goes out to bid. They've already gone out to bid and awarded their bid to Central Jersey. We're joining midstream, so
Gotcha.
we're just stuck going with who they have.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Sure. Sure.
Hey, Michael Babcock, 189 Highland Avenue. The same two resolutions, the trash collection for apartments, condominium complexes, and the bulk collection previously, prior to doing the outsourcing. Right, and we're doing now, and they're just doing the residential homes.
God, are you sure about that? When I lived in the woods, we had the public.
Tom could give I guess it was some that were done, some that were.
Yeah, some do their own, some do their own, some do their.
Yeah. Depends on whether our trucks getting there.
Right.
Front loader and rear load dumpsters. And the size of the place, so that was done by the condo itself, the planning board.
Right.
But reimbursement our cost.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's fine. What I was gonna ask is, this was previously in the sanitation budget, the cost of doing sanitation for the township. Now with the outsourcing and the calculations of the savings, now we're gonna be spending more money on other contracts to do things that previously the township sanitation department did, or?
Mr. Michelle can answer the question.
It was not in the sanitation budget. There's actually a separate section of the budget called Condo Services Act, and that's where this was reimbursed from.
But that's not included in regular, none of these are included in regular sanitation.
Correct.
Cost of the budget. This is
Something completely different.
something completely different in a whole other part of the budget.
Exactly. It was just a whole other option that Mr. Carew wanted to look at to see if there's a cost savings.
No, I mean, previously, before, 2 years ago, the sanitation costs for the township in the sanitation budget was that.
This was not part of that, no. It's a whole separate budget line item for Condo Services Act.
That's not even in the public works budget. I can, one of these can show me, I'm just a little confused. If it's sanitation, it should be, I would think it would be under sanitation, I don't know why it would be anywhere else in the budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you'd like to stop by with me.
Yeah, just so I know where it's at. Sure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bob Zenik. I live at 626 East Main Street. And I'm just curious about the 10-year preventive maintenance contract with Tozor Train. Is that for the City Hall building?
We're gonna discuss that separately, and when we do, we'll answer that question for you. Mr. Newcomer asked that be taken out and addressed separately, so we have to read it, and we have to have a comment.
Pardon me.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, any other comment on these items? Seeing none, I'll close that portion. Council, any comments?
I just had a couple questions for 98-2014, the Green Acres project. What was that project for?
That was for the Stevens property, 17-acre Stevens property. It was $3 million, and as Green Acres, anybody that's been involved in getting reimbursed from Green Acres knows, they never tell you that you are guaranteed to accept a certain amount of money because you're eligible. And Green Acres still owes, I believe, over $1 million, or I should say we're still eligible for about $1 million, and this one is for someone over $300,000. But it was a pretty expensive purchase back in 2005 or 6.
Actually, 2008.
Okay. Right, yeah, it was over $3 million for 17 acres, so it was an expensive purchase of open space.
We have no smaller purchase. We still pay.
Thank you.
I had a question about 101-213 as well, which is just there were 16 misreads of water on that list that we've gotten, and then leakage of pipes. Over what period of time is that? water.
Or for the reimbursement of the.
Yes, correct. There were said to be 16 misreads of the water. Maybe this is a good candidate for the IT improvement kind of thing. I don't know. It just, I'm wondering what period of time it's over.
You're addressing 100, not 100.
101.
Well, I think to put it in the simplest terms, 101 describes the problem, 100 describes the problem, 101 is part of the solution, which is to purchase the new water meters. But right, what I think Mr. Newcomer is referring to is Resolution 100 was to reimburse for a number of misreads, ranging from $9 to, it looks like the highest one was $985. Most of them being less than 100. But there were misreads with the meters, and Resolution 101 is a project that council funded through last year's capital budget, which was the replacement of a number of water meters not to exceed $80,000.
How many water meters does that replace? 101.
That replaces, it's not listed on here, Greg.
Well, the purchase of the new meters still is not going to correct this problem. The issue we have is that we manually read the meters. So some people go out there, right, then they write it in a book, then somebody else has to take that book. For years, we've been trying to get councils to agree, but it's a $3 million price tag to do that. So we have to upgrade all the meters to a radio read type system, and we have to retrofit every single meter for that. So that's over a $3 million project. It's been on the books for.
But Tom, going back to my original question about 100, and I apologize for identifying.
It goes. Some of it goes back to the fourth quarter of last year.
So it's over
the first quarter of this year.
4 months or 3 months, correct? 2 quarters. 2 quarters.
Right.
6 months, correct? Okay.
Well, it's tough to exactly explain because each part of the town there's 12 cycles, so their cycles are right at different times. So somebody might even someone else's fourth quarter and someone else's first quarter, depending on the cycles when they're read.
But the 16 misreads over 6 months, that's a lot different than 1 month. That's what I was trying to.
It's over a couple months.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. In that case, I will ask for a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Manpower?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Kiakia?
Yes. All right, it's going to be numerically, if Scott, if you read 103
Sure.
2014.
103-2014 is accepting the resignation of Susan Ambrose from the Recreation Advisory Committee.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, I have a couple concerns and some comments on this. Now, this is a very sad occurrence here because I think it was a 100% avoidable resignation of this individual. As you know, Ms. Ambrose is heavily involved with the children's special needs programs here in town. You know, that was one of the main reasons we had her come on to the Recreation Advisory Committee. During the meeting, you know, she had some concerns, and you know, she wasn't given the opportunity to express these concerns. The whole thing just kept on filming. Now, I do want to be unmistakably clear at this point. I'm not addressing the filming. I'm not addressing the freedom of speech or anything along those lines. What I am addressing, though, is the common consideration I feel that our volunteers are due from members of council. We appoint these people. They're volunteers. They come in daily to do just a good job for the community. And if they have a concern, we should have their back in this concern. And what we saw in this meeting was just nothing. Nothing happened. She ended up getting up, walking out of the meeting along with another individual.
Can you just, I'm sorry, what was the concern?
concern-
I'm not following.
Susan's concern was that she was going to be discussing some special needs programs and some special needs for the kids. And she did not feel comfortable discussing that on film. And she just...
I'm sorry, because where is it being filmed?
There was a Recreation Advisory Committee meeting filmed in April.
Who's filming it?
Open Doors. Mr. Lance came in.
Oh, so they're not just doing...
Yeah. She
Oh.
came in, and I'll give a little background. And you know, during the meeting, Mrs. Ambrose decided that, you know, she just didn't feel comfortable. She was not aware that this was going to happen. She didn't know who these guys were. You know, quite honestly, she did not feel comfortable discussing special needs programs, and you know, it's a sensitive topic for these people. So you know, I think all that would have been acceptable would have been, hey, let's hit pause, let's just stop the meeting, hit pause, discuss her concerns, and then perhaps this whole thing could have been avoided. And I think that this is something that, you know, needs to be discussed. I mean, if us as council members are going to be at these meetings, we need to have their backs a little bit. And if committee members are going to have concerns, you know, we should make it our concern at that point and, you know, get their back. And that just didn't happen this time. So, you know, I think moving forward, this needs to be a concern that, you know, all of us should be mindful of. That these are people that didn't sign up for, you know, this kind of scrutiny at points, and people will be uncomfortable with it. And, you know, it's our job to assure them that it's above board, and, you know, so I just think that it's a 100% avoidable thing. It's a loss for the kids, the special needs kids in town. And Sue was a very stout voice with them. She's a very dedicated individual, and she'll be sorely missed on the committee.
Yeah, she will. I mean, I picked the wrong time to go to Disney with my kids, because that was the meeting I happened to miss. But she will be missed, and you know, I definitely, you know, real sad, Phil. I hear what you're saying.
Is there something that we can do, is, you know, because we have a lot of volunteers, and I think Morristown is made up of people who volunteer their time, and you know, they weren't the people that were voted in to get, you know, people yelling at them, people having disagreements with them. They're just doing what they think is best and trying to make a better place for us to live in. Is there maybe something, and I don't know legality-wise, so Mr. Dawes, you have to kind of guide me on this, but instead of filming, is it just maybe you can just have you know, like a recording, like a speech recording, not like, you know, like we do at the zoning board or the planning board. You know, there's a recording, and not do a physical taking effect. They didn't sign up for that. I mean, that's, you know, that's going to be a question we're going to have to ask each and every one of our volunteers. Will you be comfortable being filmed? You know, that's just something that maybe, you know, I understand what Mr. Lance is trying to do, you know, make everything open and transparent, but I think when it affects our volunteers and makes them uncomfortable, I think that becomes a problem. So maybe there's a common compromise or a common ground that we can come to so that people aren't, you know, feeling uncomfortable and not being able to participate.
Well, Stacy, from a legal standpoint, the issue's been litigated. Folks do have the right to videotape public meetings. And I would think that maybe that specific issue of an advisory committee of volunteers, whether that constitutes a public meeting, but I think it probably would be construed as something like that. I think what you're talking about is not just the videotaping of the meeting, but then, you know, the subsequent broadcasting of the meeting. You know, which folks have the right to do that, First Amendment and all, that's fine, but I think what the folks that are doing it, I think, need to realize is that perhaps from a legal standpoint, people have the right to videotape and do all of that, but folks like Ms. Ambrose may not like it, and I think it may have a chilling effect on people's willingness to serve, particularly on advisory committees. You know, elected officials are one thing. Everyone's here because they've campaigned, they've interacted with the public, they understand that politics is a contact sport and all of that, you know, you take the good with the bad, but, you know, not necessarily volunteers. And, you know, from as kind of a new phenomenon in the information age that we live in, not only are folks volunteering their time to go to public to help out the town because they think they're doing the right thing, but now they also find that everything they're doing is videotaped and broadcast, which, you know, perhaps some of it's unedited, perhaps some of it is. I mean, really, it's kind of you're kind of at the mercy of the person with the camera in terms of what they're willing to do, and I think that may have, as I said earlier, a chilling effect on some volunteers' willingness to serve and participate in committees like this. So from a legal standpoint, I don't really think there's much that can be done, but I think from a practical standpoint, I think everyone, starting with Ms. Ambrose and everyone who's involved in this, has to realize that it's gonna change the way things
It's
are
unfortunate.
handled, and it could very well scare
If I
folks
could-
away from being willing to serve.
Mr. Mayor, if I could have the floor for a moment.
Yeah, I just have a quick follow-up, then Greg, it's all yours. What if there are teens or kids at that deal? I know rack we have, does that raise the standard or no?
Well, if the kids that are there by virtue of being high school students and they're there at the behest of the school, then they probably acknowledged at some point as a student the reality of them being videotaped and their images being reproduced. But if there's other folks and kids in the audience who haven't done that, you know, I'm sure they could very well be upset about something.
Well, I'll talk about
Something they were anticipating.
well, consent thing, do we need to get consent or anything like that?
We may.
Yeah, I'm just wondering from a liability
I
standpoint.
think from as far as minors go, it could be a different story in terms of their willingness to use it.
Greg, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, over a year ago, we had actually thought about this whole thing from perspective of we, the council, having people who were going to videotape us. And at that time, I had volunteered to go to the school, where in fact in this school, I was the coordinator for a long time for the school services. I talked to John Bishop, whose equipment is right across the hall in the building, and have a process and develop a process at that time to have a system whereby we have videotaping in these proceedings. And I do believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Giles, that we have some way of actually identifying what we want as a process for what we videotape. And I suggest that we do that as we go forward. We look at what is videotaping and what we do when we do videotape. As far as the public in that meeting, I attended that meeting myself because we had the David Gentili Park being presented by a person. I was told about that, and I've done a lot of park work with one of the reports. I wanted to give that report and talk to that report about a park that was being presented as a possibility for a David Gentili memorial. Sandy McGuire was there and did that a fine presentation to us for that before this discussion about this videotaping came about and these people were concerned. And their concerns were brought up. The chair of the Recreation Committee, as well as myself, as well as a person, and I can't remember the name, maybe look it up, is a liaison from the board, school board, basically tried to talk to the person who was concerned, and actually a second person, and say that to our knowledge, the Open Public Meetings Act allows videotaping for any of those things. So those were things that did happen, and there was some discussion back and forth in relation to that. It was very kind of upsetting to us because we didn't want to see a good volunteer go away, and we didn't want to see another person who was actually concerned with their security clearance to go away. And both of these were a concern for us. So again, if there's a way to address this in regards to maybe how things were going, that would be fine. As I said before, I don't know about Open Doors. I've never looked at Open Doors. I've talked to Mr. Lance about 3 times about, and as a matter of fact, I did talk to him about this once, about Open Doors, but I don't have time to, I'm trying to do stuff for the town. I don't have time to look at a lot of videos. I'm trying to read all the information that we have. I think that if there is a correct way to go ahead, as I said a year ago, it would be good to have us understand what that process is. And I suggest that the council make this an agenda item.
I can suggest, Greg, that if it goes towards regulating the content of what's said and recorded or broadcast, that I think there's really nothing we can do about that.
But there may be some
But
other...
as far as, you know, I think in the past, towns have attempted to regulate videotaping of public meetings where, in an earlier age of VHS, you know, folks would come in with a great big camera and a tripod, and it would be very intrusive. And, you know, the regulations at the time would probably just restrict videotaping to certain places in the room with advance notice and all that, so you wouldn't have people traipsing in and out with equipment and disrupting things. Really, to the point of not disrupting the ongoing meeting. But, you know, that was years ago. Now, folks have smartphones with video cameras built right into them. You could be videotaped, you don't even realize it.
Well,
posting.
to
So
what
I think as far as those regulations go, the regulations that have been out there really are probably outdated as far as what new regulations there may be. I'm not aware of it.
Well, it might be worth looking into if we could, and I suggest we make that either agenda item or Scott would probably address it. But I want to go back to one thing that I wanted to say a year ago. We have a really good opportunity in the town to take very talented people we have in the high school and help have them come and have real life experience to be video people, which is why I wanted to get Mr. Bishop involved before. And maybe this is something we do in conjunction with the schools so that they could come and do the videotaping, editing, and that kind of thing. So I put that out there again for an agenda item, as I did a year ago.
You know, that's all well and good, but that was not my point with Ms. Ambrose's resignation. You know, to have the academic discussion on filming is great, and I think it's worth pursuing. I'm all for it, and I can't say that enough. But my problem is just the way that whole meeting transpired, the way she was just shuffled off. And you know, I've watched the video a couple times, and I'm just upset by it. I think what we should have done at that point in time, seeing that there were two members upset, and that the meeting was being fully disrupted, just taking a 5-second pause. Just say, all right, look, so we're going to turn off the camera, let's just talk about this. She was upset. She called me that night, she was extremely upset, and then she continued to be upset for several days, and I know...
Mr. Garwood, your viewing of that may be edited, because my experience was that the chairman spent several minutes trying to talk to those people.
I mean, that's you know...
Wait a second, man, what did you say, it may be edited?
It may have been edited, I don't know what they saw. I was at the meeting, and the chairman did spend a good deal of time. It was
that was Tom. It was
very civil time. No, the chairman.
Keith's the chair, right?
The chairman, I actually don't remember his name, but I know.
Keith's the chairman, he was
Keith
not there.
Oliver was not there
He
as
was the
well.
vice chair.
Tom, the chairman of that meeting actually spent a good deal of time trying to talk to, several minutes trying to talk to.
And that was the same academic discussion that we're having here now. It was not, you know, addressing the concerns of the committee members and the volunteers at the point. You know, and I just think, you know, we owe these guys a little bit of a, you know, we got your back a little bit. And I think we should have just, at that point, just taken a quick pause. That's all. You know, because all she wanted to do was talk about some special needs things that, you know what, they're sensitive. And I think that if we're going to proceed with this, we need to be just a little cognizant of the sensitivity.
And that would go back to the rules that I was talking about. If we could
And that's,
possibly do
you know,
that.
that's my point. It's not, you know, it's not the academics of reporting, it's the civility of how we treat our volunteers.
Okay.
In terms of the academics of what is appropriate content, right, I can tell you that that's something that with the cable channel coming online sometime, you know, in the next several months, hopefully, the TNT committee has appointed a subcommittee to really specifically look just at that issue, so it is being addressed. In terms of, you know, the filming, I think the real issue here is that we appoint these volunteers to these committees. You know, when we ran for office, we signed up for this. We signed up for people being mad at us. You know, there are people in this room who I know I will never please no matter what I do. Right. And that's fine, because I recognize that going in, and I can handle it. I have thick enough skin to do that. We're trying to appoint people who are the very best in their area, that are wonderful volunteers. They didn't sign up to be broadcast on the internet where they feel like they're going to be opened up to maybe undue criticism. I'm not questioning the legality of it. I am questioning the appropriateness of it. You know, these are committees where people need to be brainstorming and bouncing ideas off of one another. They don't want to feel like what they say has now been kind of set in stone, where people can say, well, this was discussed at the Rec Advisory Committee, this is what I think they're going to be doing. You know, they need a safe space to have these discussions. And, you know, I don't know if the benefit of filming these really outweighs the cost. And here, we really see a clear example of that. I mean, I am so distraught that Sue has decided to resign, because she is, not only is she dedicated to the cause, she's a creative thinker, and she gets things done. I mean, there's no question she's dynamo, and this is a huge loss to our community, to have her decide to leave because she doesn't feel comfortable discussing, especially individuals, in, this environment. We do a great job of advertising our meetings. They are open to the public. The agendas are generally posted in advance. If someone sees something on that agenda that they want to see, they can come, and if they want to report it for their own personal benefit, by all means. I don't blame our volunteers if they feel uncomfortable being put on YouTube, which is available to anyone in the world with a wireless connect or with an internet connection. I can completely understand that, and I don't think it's that they don't want to be transparent. I don't think it's that they want to be secretive. It's intimidating to have your image put up where any of 6 of you really think about it. And I think that as council members, we have to be primarily concerned with having these people's backs, because we've asked them to take on a large responsibility in our community, and we're trusting them with a lot. And so I think in a situation like this, someone should have stood up for her and tried to make her more comfortable. I understand that the vice chair explained what was going on, but still, while being filmed, where maybe those people who had concerns didn't feel comfortable even really having that discussion. And I think, first and foremost, we need to make these people feel comfortable and allow them to do what we ask them to do in an environment where they feel they can do that. So, obviously, we can't prevent people from filming, but I hope we can find some way to help, just at least mitigate this so that we don't have this happen again.
At the very least, I think, when we send out our requests to serve, I think there should be something on there that says, you will, possibly be videotaped, and is this something that you will accept? Because I think that's seriously going to damage how many volunteers will step up to it, but I think we need to let them know as a common courtesy from us that that's going to happen. And it's a shame that that's all happened. We're going to lose some good people.
And there's no way that we can have copies of that to post on our website, because it's, quite frankly, it's usually third party. And we don't know if it's edited, not edited. Right now, I mean, it would be great to have a link, to a township website.
Well,
with an unedited version.
to Greg's idea of the meetings, the public, our council meetings are going to be recorded, I guess, according to Rick, starting May 19th. So that takes care of that. As far as the committee meetings go, there's definitely definitely looking into something with the school, where if somebody wants to get some experience recording, go that route also.
I don't think that mitigates the
No, it
problem.
doesn't.
I think that's a whole other subject.
It is, and that's why I was hopefully going to try to keep these two discussions separate. But it's a good discussion to have, because it's it is there, and it's one does lead right into the other. So but it's a very regrettable.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's for someone who wants to serve and someone who's taking time away from their special needs family to come and take off for a night to try to help the town. It's definitely a sad day when this person feels they have to resign. I agree with you completely. Okay, with all that, I guess we have entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Sue Ambrose. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll open for a public comment regarding the resignation of Sue Ambrose from the Director Advisory Committee. Anyone?
Edward Bank, 209 Perry. I disagree apparently with most, if not all, members of the council. I don't know this person. I'm not saying anything against him. I am not particularly supporting Mr. Lyons in his operation. Oh, it's a very good thing. But, and I agree with the legal opinion of Mr. Drollis that there's such a thing as a United States Constitution. Earlier this evening, we heard about freedom and liberty and all that stuff. And my point is, if it's public business it's public. Whether it's recorded, print media, or any one of you, whatever I say now is public.
Yeah, Mr. Beck, you just brought up a good question, and maybe for Mr. Jaws. There is no public action taken at these are advisory committees.
Well, you
Who
know.
advise us, and then we.
That is public business which may affect what subsequently council may do. In fact, that's why you got advice, right?
It's advisory. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I
I was taking my law certificate.
Mr. Beck, cut me off. I mean, look, we
Oh,
could
it's
look
very
at the
funny.
issue, the specific issue about videotaping. I think it was decided in the context of a meeting of elected officials like this. I would assume that it's construed pretty broadly. So you may well be right, but from a legal standpoint, it's something you have to look into. I think you're looking at it from more of a practical standpoint, and that point of view.
If I could address Mr.
In
Beck's-
summary,
Mr. Beck, if I could
my-
address your point just for a
Okay,
minute.
sure.
One of the confusions I actually had at that meeting was when I used to chair the appearance committee, which is an advisory committee, we had to do the open up statement, the open public meeting statement, to support what Mr. Drops just said, but that in fact was formal. So that was an advisory committee. So it goes back to the confusion about this, that we should put it on as an agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Beck.
In summary, we might all reflect on the state of opinion of the prior United States President, President Truman, quote, roughly anyway, if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And thank you for your time.
Michael Babcock, 189 Highland Avenue. This question would be for Mr. Draws. Does the sunshine law, am I correct, does that apply to what we're talking about here?
I think that's what we're getting at.
Okay. Is that,
It probably does. I haven't looked at the issue. I could, I will, if the council wants me to. But that's, I think what we're talking about.
Okay, I mean, we talk about volunteers, and I can understand the concern of people who volunteer, but is there a shortage of volunteers to do this? Because I know myself, my wife tried to get on 2 different committees and she was turned down. So if it became like a problem, kind of like the smoking problem, that you said that it's not a problem, if it became a problem, and this isn't a problem yet with the videotaping, I would wait until it becomes a problem to go crazy as far as addressing it. Because with sunshine law, I believe it says you can pretty much record and videotape everything.
As far as addressing it goes, at this point, I'm not sure what council could do, even if they wanted to.
But me personally, I actually watched a meeting that you would attend, the IT and the Open Doors, who posts all these videos. And pretty informative for me. It's 11 o'clock at night, I'm still working, and I'm learning about what we're doing, all the stuff that you were at the meeting with Comcast, and I think it's great. I mean, I would never have time to go to all these meetings. I barely have time to show up at one meeting. But I can definitely say it's helpful for me in understanding a lot of what goes on, especially now a lot of what's going on because the town hall and all this new stuff. People want to know. It's a lot of money we spend here. So I'd like to know how it's being spent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll close the part, public comment portion. I'll accept a motion to accept Sue Ambrose's resignation. All right. We'll table that. Moving on to Greg's 186-2014, if somebody would.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that was authorizing the town of Morristown to enter into a 10-year preventative maintenance contract with Tozer Train in the amount of $15,050 per year.
Could you just explain to the public what that is?
Essentially, we have a pretty substantial HVAC system in the new building, and this will cover all aspects of maintenance, both not only preventative, but any fixes that need to take place over the course of 10 years. It's certainly not a small amount of money, but I think it is a very smart investment. Rick, if you want to chime in, please do so. But yeah, I think this is money well spent.
Okay, so you recommend we proceed with this?
Yeah, Rick, you want to chime in?
If you recall, we were adding features of bacteria, bacteria, say it again, Rick? Ultraviolet rays that will kill bacteria as it goes through, so we don't have any lingering aroma coming from the books that gets circulated. So this system is not something that can be necessarily just looked at occasionally and change a filter. You need the people who made the system maintain it so that we have a guarantee that our new library is protected.
It's surely something we have been trying to do, and we haven't had such a great track record, and that goes across the board with our maintenance. So, so this seems to be something you're saying we need. Scott, you're recommending it as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we're essentially outsourcing the maintenance of the system, which otherwise Public Works would be doing it, and
this is not your run-of-the-mill heating and cooling system. This has.
This is the HVA system, state-of-the-art for a 36,500 square foot building.
All right, good enough. I'll open the public comment portion on this one item. Sir.
Jack Lance, 302 East Main Street. I guess the question I have, Mr. Crew or Council, 10 years. Is that part of a package that maybe when we had the system installed, same company or different company that installed that may be maintaining it? Is this a different company than the original install company, I guess?
This is the maintenance arm of the original company that is installing.
Okay. So I guess I'm just trying to understand 10 years because...
The 10 years is just about getting a price break. They originally wanted $20,000 a year. Through the fact that we're already using Train in a couple other places, and Mr. Crew's excellent negotiation skills, it's down to $15,000.
Gotcha. Okay, I guess the only other question I have is, I would imagine, so this only covers the new town hall, correct?
The new town hall and the library, and all of the smaller units that are also serving the offices.
Okay. So I guess I'm also just thinking, new equipment. First year, second year, perhaps no problems or limited problems. I guess that comes into the price. I mean, is this 15 grand, let's say a unit, no good in 5 years, and it needs to be replaced? Does that cover a completely new unit as well, or it's just the maintenance?
It's the maintenance for the first 4 years. If the unit would die, we'd get a new unit. If it's after that 4-year period, then it would be some expense to us. But the quality of the unit is a 25 to 30-year unit, so we don't expect that situation to occur.
Okay.
Rick, is there a manufacturer's warranty on this?
Yes.
How long is that?
Manufacturer's warranty, I believe, is 10 years, but it's on certain parts and lithium condensers and things like that. So it's not on everything.
Okay.
Now, at the end of 10 years, we would renew the contract.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
The reason we're getting a 10-year deal is we get a lower price.
Okay, thank you very much.
My name is Robert Zenick. I live at 626 East Main. I was a little curious. Some of the stuff that they're going to maintain is being warranted by the company for 10 years anyway, and we're paying to maintain it?
It's just like your car. You know, they warrant 100,000 miles of certain things, and then you get there and you find out that the drivetrain wasn't part of the...
Also,
pardon me?
Didn't you say it was maintenance?
Well, right, with the analogy of the car, Rick, it's also your oil changes and your tire balancing and changing your...
You have to meet your rotational maintenance in order to be eligible for those replacements.
I don't know, I think that like the heat exchanger and the compressors and all, warranty for 10 years, whether you, there's nothing to maintain on them at all.
This is a rather sophisticated system. You have all of the ultraviolet light system, which is a separate tubes that have to be changed 3 to 4 times a year. You have cleaning that has to go on because of the circulation that's going on through these filters that have been added. You can't just let that sit there. That would be a big mistake.
Greg, you wanted that pulled out?
Are you
Oh, I'm sorry.
close the
I'm sorry.
public portion, or is there other people?
Yeah, no, I missed you, I'm sorry.
Are we at I don't know if we're at a public comment or not.
Public comment for 106/2014.
Nancy Newcomer, 235 Fellowship Road. I would like to commend Morristown for maintaining these beautiful buildings that you've just created. We've had some experience with buildings that haven't been maintained,
Yeah.
and you know, it's not a pretty picture. So thank you for doing the right thing. I think we need to spend the money.
Thank you, Nancy.
Close the public.
I won't close it. Close the public comment portion, right?
Okay, I really don't mean to throw a wet blanket on something that I really wanted to do. And I asked that we actually table this, if possible, time-wise, to do that. And the reason I do that is the scope of coverage has some things that we could go into that are contract things that are very pertinent to me, because I've negotiated contracts like this for 20 years. For instance, the technician for labor is $115 $172 overtime for an A technician. A B technician is $123 straight time and $185 for overtime for anything that is out of scope of work. For instance, the refrigerant is not included in any of these things, and the refrigerant cost is very big in any repairs. For instance, all parts and materials necessary for repairs are not included. I just would ask to pull it so we could go back and ask these guys to sharpen their pencils and think about what they're doing. Could we table this, please?
Is it time sensitive? You know, can we carry it for, okay, fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, sure. Okay. We'll make a motion to table 106/2014, pending further discussion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Heather?
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yep.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan? Yes. Mayor Fiacco?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving to minutes. We have October 28th minutes, 2013, official action in closed session. Comment from a member of council or a motion to adopt regarding minutes.
Motion. Second.
Okay, thank you, Victoria and Stacy. Patty, roll call.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Fiacco?
Yes. Approval of expenditures. Council comment or motion to adopt. Had expenditures.
Thomas, excuse me, is the PSE&G number at the 46,000 that's voided in the 36,000? In other words, that PSE&G value, is that a 1 month again?
That's about right for 1 month.
Okay, thank you.
Greg? Any comment or motion to adopt the expenditures?
So moved.
Second.
Patty?
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Fiacco?
Yes. Scott, new business,
I have none for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
old business?
We've already discussed the Mint complex, that was all I had.
Okay, and the manager's report?
Really, we've discussed everything since the last meeting, unless everyone wants to discuss the case of acute bronchitis that went through my house.
I'm sorry, I gave it to you. And anybody else in the town hall that I went through, I gave it to.
I'll wait for the movie. Comments from members of the public on agenda items only. If you have a comment regarding an agenda item, please come to the microphone, say your name and address. Close that, we're going to close now by council, starting with Mr. Newcomer.
I just wondered if the next time we could actually get a report from OAMO, particularly in things like what we've already budgeted this year, such as the $5 million overlay of the roads in the town, and other things that are in this report from November 27, 2013, as to their progress. I briefly mentioned this to Scott before, just what their progress is, so we know where they are as we go into the finishing of the budget cycle.
Absolutely, Greg.
Thank you.
Phil?
Sure. I just want to touch on one thing that was brought up about the order of the agenda here. I would like to see if we could move the residents' comments section to the end of the meeting. We spent roughly an hour and 45 minutes before we even got to the meat of the matter for our meeting tonight. Now, while I do understand that the public has every single right in the world to come up and voice their opinion at the microphone, and you know, it's a great show, and I cherish it. It does get rather lengthy, and I would rather just get to the meat of the matter and get our meeting rolling along rather than getting sidetracked for hours. So, you know,
we'll
if
discuss
we
it.
could, you know,
We'll
discuss it again. Other than that, no, I'm okay. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Victoria?
You know, just a final word about banning smoking. You know, I think this is about community. You know, maybe if we lived in a city where, you know, we don't kind of all know each other, at least to a certain extent, I think this would be maybe more a matter for legislation. But, you know, we pride ourselves on being a community. And in a community, we can resolve disputes among one another civilly, respectfully. I can't imagine a situation where someone was smoking in a park and someone said, hey, could you please put that out? And that person would say no. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that. Not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's so unlikely that I don't really see the need to regulate this. I know lots of people may disagree, but that's my opinion on that. And other than that, I'm coming out.
Deputy Mayor Jordan?
You know, a lot said tonight on a couple things that I want to just touch on, which would be smoking as well as the videotaping. I think it just comes down to us being having a common courtesy towards our fellow citizens, and I think that we can do that, you know, with our volunteers that are working hard on our committees. You know, maybe there's a common courtesy to not film them. You can film other parts of the meeting, but not, you know, people who don't want to be filmed. Maybe that's just something they have to work out with the person who's filming it. I know it's all legal, you know, it's the right to do it. But it's just out of common courtesy and respect for our citizens. The same way with smoking. I think it's a common courtesy that, you know, people don't smoke on a public park where the children are playing. You know, and like you said, Victoria, you know, my 11-year-old has no problem going up to you and telling you it's a disgusting habit and you need to put it out. But because of that, and you know, we talked about making a law. I don't see there needs to be a law on something that I don't feel is a rampant problem. However, I would take on the responsibility or the campaign to put it out there that we don't want to have smoking in our parks. And if you wouldn't mind, I'll run with that. With, you know, go to the Boy Scouts and ask them to help us out with the campaign for it, or go to the Boy Scouts and ask them to help us out. And make it a town-wide campaign, not a law, but a campaign to kind of stamp out smoking, you know, and not do it in our parks. And I wouldn't mind doing that. So if you don't mind, I'll run with that. Okay.
My closing comments were basically thank you, have a great night, and drive safely.
Oh,
You are not.
you know what, I'm sorry.
One more thing, go ahead.
And I know you touched on Harry Coons tonight. I just wanted to say, just again, I miss seeing him sitting up there, giving me a little wink and a little, you know, thumbs up, and it's just, he's a great loss for our town to have him gone, and I wanted to make sure we put in the record that he was a great citizen of Morristown.
Rest in peace, Harry. We are not going to close session. That will conclude tonight's meeting. Thanks very much, meeting adjourned.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.